2:47 a.m. The Strait of Hormuz. The USS Abraham Lincoln, a 100,000-ton nuclear-powered supercarrier, cuts through black water at flank speed. 40 aircraft on her deck, 5,000 sailors below. The most powerful warship on Earth. And somewhere out there, in the dark, something is already in the air. The Houthis have been watching her for 6 days, tracking her movement through drone feeds, satellite intercepts, commercial shipping data. They know her speed. They know her heading. They know exactly where she'll be in 40 minutes. And they've already launched. The first contact hits the radar net at 2:49, an AN/SPY-6 air and missile defense radar, the most advanced naval radar ever built. Picks up 3 inbound signatures simultaneously. Fast movers, low altitude, bearing 218 degrees, closing at 680 kilometers per hour. And then time to impact, less than 7 minutes. On the bridge, the Combat Direction Center erupts. Screens flood with red tracks. Operators are already moving. The ship's Aegis combat system, a network of processors running 10 billion calculations per second, begins computing intercept solutions before the human crew can even process what they're seeing. This is what Aegis was built for. Not a drill, not a simulation, the real thing. The captain issues Battle Condition 1. Every watertight door on the ship slams shut. Sailors sprint to battle stations. The flight deck clears in under 90 seconds. Aircraft pushed below, elevators dropping, the deck suddenly bare and dark. 4 guided missile destroyers in the carrier strike group begin maneuvering. The USS Stockdale swings hard to port. She's putting herself between the incoming threats and the Lincoln. What nobody knows yet, what the sensors haven't confirmed, is that the 3 radar contacts are a decoy. The real attack is already 17 minutes behind them. 12 cruise missiles, sea skimming, radar-absorbent coatings. Flying so low their radar cross-section is smaller than a seagull. The Houthis didn't just launch, they engineered a layered assault. Wave 1 gets you looking up. Wave 2 kills you from the water. The first wave closes to 4 nautical miles. Stockdale's forward missile launcher rotates. 2 SM-2 surface-to-air missiles ignite in sequence, a sound like ripping thunder that carries across 4 miles of open water. Both missiles climb at 3 times the speed of sound. First contact detonates at 2.1 nautical miles. Second, at 1.8. The third evades the first intercept and gets inside 2 miles before a CIWS, Phalanx Close-In Weapons System, opens up at 4,500 rounds per minute. The air in front of the ship turns into a wall of depleted uranium. Contact 3 disintegrates 1,200 meters from the Lincoln's hull, 3 down. But the clock just reset, because the second wave is still coming. MH-60R Seahawk helicopters, Romeo class, the Navy's most capable ASW and surface warfare rotorcraft, are already airborne off the Lincoln's deck. They were launched 12 minutes ago, before the first radar contact, because someone in intelligence had flagged unusual communications activity in the Houthi launch corridors 4 hours earlier. That decision, to pre-position aerial assets, is about to save this ship. The Seahawks acquire the second wave at 31 nautical miles. The 12 targets, sea-level flight, electronic signatures consistent with Iranian-derived Quds-3 cruise missiles, a derivative of the Sumar, itself a reverse-engineered Soviet Ki-55. Range, 1,350 kilometers. Warhead, 450 kilograms of high explosive, each one capable of punching through 4 inches of hardened steel. A Seahawk fires 2 AGM-154 Hellfire missiles at the lead contact. Miss, the Quds. 3 jinks hard, right? An evasive maneuver its programming wasn't supposed to be capable of. Updated guidance software. The Houthis have been learning. Every engagement, every near miss, every intercept feeds back into the next launch cycle. This isn't a proxy force running 10-year-old tactics anymore. This is an adaptive adversary with Iranian engineers actively updating their systems in near real time. The strike group is about to face its hardest test. At this moment, something happens that changes the engagement entirely. A P-8 Poseidon maritime patrol aircraft, flying a racetrack pattern at 25,000 feet 50 miles to the north, detects a submarine contact, a small diesel-electric boat, running shallow, positioned directly in the projected path of the carrier group's evasive maneuver. If the Lincoln turns south to avoid the missile barrage, she'll be sailing straight into torpedo range. The trap was never the missiles. The missiles are the herding mechanism. The Houthis, or more precisely, the Iranian naval planners who designed this operation, wanted the Lincoln to do exactly what any rational commander would do: turn away from the incoming fire. And waiting there, patient and silent, is the kill shot. The P-8 drops 2 sonobuoys, confirms the contact, classifies it as a Ghadir-class midget submarine, a 120-ton vessel Iran has exported to Houthi-aligned naval assets in the Red Sea over the past 18 months. Armed with 2 heavyweight torpedoes, positioned 11 nautical miles off the Lincoln's projected starboard beam. Now, the strike group commander faces a decision that will determine whether 5,000 Americans live or die, and whether the U.S. Navy loses its first supercarrier in combat in 80 years. He has incoming cruise missiles from the south, a submarine to the east, and a carrier turning radius measured in miles, not meters. He doesn't turn south. He doesn't turn east. He orders the Lincoln to accelerate, straight ahead, due north, and activates the one system that most people watching this will never have heard of, the AN/SLQ-25 Nixie. A torpedo decoy system. A torpedo-shaped device towed behind the ship on a cable, broadcasting acoustic signatures that mimic the Lincoln's own propulsion noise. If the submarine launches, the torpedo tracks the Nixie, not the carrier. It's a $6 million piece of engineering designed to make a weapon chase a noise. Simultaneously, the USS Chung-hoon, a destroyer operating in close escort, detects the submarine on its own sonar and goes weapons-free. 2 Mark 54 lightweight torpedoes enter the water within 20 seconds of each other, both guided, both running hot. The submarine goes deep, begins evasive maneuvers. The Mark 54's onboard processing system, about as powerful as a modern gaming console, updates its tracking solution every millisecond, predicting the submarine's movement, compensating for thermal layers in the water column that bend sound and confuse guidance systems. First, Mark 54 loses contact in a thermal layer at 180 meters. Second Mark 54 compensates, adjusts, and detonates 8 meters off the submarine's pressure hull. Not a direct hit. But the shockwave is enough. The Ghadir loses depth control, starts venting compressed air, and begins an emergency ascent. She breaks the surface 4 minutes later, crippled, unable to dive, her crew signaling distress on international frequencies. Back on the surface, the second wave of cruise missiles is now inside 20 nautical miles. The strike group's air defense net is fully engaged, destroyers firing SM-2s and SM-6s, the Lincoln's own launchers cycling through intercepts, CIWS systems on 4 ships are online and autonomous. This phase of the battle looks, on a radar screen, like a fireworks display. 17 intercepts in 11 minutes. 8 missiles are killed at distance, 3 more at medium range. 1 slips through, damaged by fragmentation from a near miss, guidance system partially degraded but still flying. It loses altitude, skips the water twice, and impacts the Lincoln's starboard quarter at the waterline. The explosion tears a 12-foot hole in the hull below the waterline. Compartment flooding begins immediately. Damage control teams are on it in 90 seconds. Pre-positioned exactly where the hit came, because the ship's damage control AI had already modeled the most likely impact points based on the missile's final approach angle. The pumps are already running. The watertight integrity is holding. The Lincoln is wounded. She is not sinking. Now comes the response. And when the U.S. responds, it doesn't send a message. It sends a lesson. Within 4 minutes of the impact, 2 A-18F Super Hornets are airborne off the Lincoln's bow. They're carrying something specific: AGM-154 joint standoff weapons, glide bombs with GPS guidance and a range of over 100 kilometers, stealthy enough that ground-based radar won't detect them until detonation. The pilots don't need to fly over the target. They don't need to be within SAM range. They just need line of sight at launch altitude, and the weapons do the rest. The targets were already designated, pre-planned. The intelligence community had spent months building the target package. Every Houthi missile storage facility, every mobile launcher, every underground bunker within 300 kilometers of the coast. The strike plan was sitting in a classified server at 5th Fleet headquarters in Bahrain, ready to execute the moment it was authorized. The first bomb hits a Houthi missile storage complex near the port of Hodeidah at 3:22 a.m. local time. Secondary explosions last for 6 minutes. The facility stored 47 Quds series cruise missiles, 12 ballistic missiles, and 2 years' worth of fuel and maintenance equipment, all of it gone in the time it takes to drink a cup of coffee. Second strike. A radar station on the Yemeni coast that had been feeding targeting data to the launch teams. The antenna array, worth approximately $40 million, becomes a crater. No more targeting data, no more tracking feeds. The Houthis are now operationally blind in that sector. The third strike, the harbor where the Ghadir-class submarine was serviced. Satellite imagery from 2 hours earlier had confirmed 2 additional midget submarines berthed there. The dock, the support vessels, the maintenance infrastructure, all of it struck by 4 JSOWs arriving simultaneously from 2 directions, ensuring maximum coverage and minimum chance of escape. But here is where it gets complicated. Because war is never clean. Never just hardware and coordinates. The P-8 crew, circling above the stricken submarine, watches as the Ghadir's crew abandons ship into open water. 15 men in survival suits in 28 degrees Celsius water, 40 miles from the nearest shore. The crew of the Chung Hoon, the destroyer that launched the torpedoes that crippled the submarine, are now monitoring those men, watching them drift. The Chung Hoon's captain gets on the radio, checks his rules of engagement, checks international maritime law, confirms that the submarine had not yet fired. It was caught before the torpedo launch. Under the laws of armed conflict, a surrendered combatant, even an enemy, is entitled to rescue at sea. The Chung Hoon recovers all 15 survivors, treats 2 for injuries, logs them as prisoners of war. The Navy will later call this moment an American destroyer rescuing the crew of a submarine that tried to trap an American carrier, one of the more remarkable episodes of restraint and professionalism in modern naval history. Back on the Lincoln, the damage control teams have slowed the flooding. The hole in the hull is being patched with temporary materials, a process that sounds improvised but is anything but. Every damage control team on every Navy ship trains for exactly this scenario. They have pre-cut wooden boards called softwood plugs, expanding foam, submersible pumps, and hydraulic shoring jacks. The Lincoln is managing 3 feet of water in 2 compartments. The ship's structural integrity is not compromised. She can still make 28 knots. At 4:15 a.m., 5th Fleet issues a brief statement. It confirms the strike group was attacked, confirms retaliatory strikes were conducted, does not mention the submarine, does not mention the survivor recovery, does not mention the hull damage. The public version of this story is a paragraph. The real version is what you've been watching. And here's the thing that nobody on social media will tell you. But every naval analyst who reads the classified after-action report will understand immediately. The Houthis came closer to sinking a U.S. supercarrier than any adversary has since World War II. They used deception. They used layered attack architecture. They used adaptive guidance systems. They used a submarine as a herding mechanism. And they got 1 missile through. 1 missile. Out of 15 launched. On a ship defended by 4 destroyers, 2 helicopters, and one of the most sophisticated air defense systems ever built. That is not a failure of American defense. That is a testament to it. But it is also a warning. Because the system that nearly worked tonight, the multi-vector adaptive layered assault that forced a supercarrier to choose between 2 threats simultaneously, is a template. It will be studied. It will be improved. Iran will feed data from tonight back into the next version of whatever comes next. The Lincoln's crew is standing down from Battle Condition 1 at 4:47 a.m. Sailors eating cold food in darkened mess halls. Pilots writing debrief notes. Damage control teams still working the flooded compartments. The carrier strike group is continuing its transit. The mission doesn't stop because you took a hit, but in a command center somewhere in Tehran, analysts are running numbers, reviewing footage from drone observers, cross-referencing radar recordings with the intercept timeline, calculating what worked, what didn't, what to change for next time. And that is the true answer to the question everybody is asking right now. Was this a Houthi attack or an Iranian operation? The answer is yes. It was both. The Houthis provided the political cover, the launch teams, the local logistics. Iran provided the target package, the guidance updates, the submarine. What you watched tonight wasn't a militia acting out of ideology. It was a proxy force executing a military operation designed by naval professionals with access to satellite data, advanced engineering, and 40 years of institutional knowledge about American carrier group doctrine. The USS Abraham Lincoln is still afloat, still operational, still the most powerful warship on the planet. Her crew performed exactly as trained, exactly as needed. The system held, but just barely. And the question that should keep every defense planner awake tonight is not what happened, it's what comes next. What did you think was the most critical decision in this engagement? The pre-positioned helicopters? The acceleration north? The decision to rescue the submarine crew? Drop your answer below. And if you want to understand how this kind of layered naval warfare works, how carriers are protected, how submarines are hunted, how the next generation of anti-ship weapons is changing everything, make sure you're subscribed, because the next video is going to go even deeper.